Good morning, guys. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in different parts of the world. This is Kat and Danis here from the Agile Avengers. How
Hi.
are you guys doing? How are you doing, Kat?
Yeah, not too bad. Getting used to this lockdown life.
Yeah,
Hope
I
everyone
agree.
is keeping well.
Yeah,
And
they
that's
are. Yeah. So we thought of this is part of our series of having the lockdown conversations that we had. We had Amy and Ben the other day do a sort of a podcast on the Scrum Master and the roles that they perform. So we just thought of going ahead and talking about the experiences that we had as product owners. We were basically two people that were thrust into the role of a product owner, though that was not our actual role.
no.
And I think it would be fair to say that we enjoyed it a bit.
Yeah.
You think
Yeah.
so?
I think that's quite fair to say.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it came with its own challenges and stuff, but yeah. So we are just going to talk about that today. So, Kat, do you want to just give a sort of brief introduction as to your background and what you do and stuff?
Yeah. So I work at Vodafone, just like Amy and Ben. My actual role is I'm an e-commerce manager and I'm part of a marketing squad. And we look after the full sort of end-to-end marketing campaigns for upgrades. So recently, at the end of January, our product owner left. He had been with us for around 2 years, so very well experienced, and he had helped set us up in a very structured and productive way. Like people call us like a really well-oiled engine. That's it. So he was leaving and they needed someone to basically step in as an interim product owner, and they asked me to do it. And even though I've had no experience before, I just thought it'd be a really good challenge. Well, good challenge in the sense of like us doing Agile Avengers, we sort of live and breathe Agile in our day-to-day jobs, but also on the side as well. So it'd be a really good experience for myself, just to see how I performed, basically. What about you?
That's nice. So basically, giving a brief introduction of myself. I have actually done quite a few hats. So I was developer, BA, and Kat, I was part of your team as well.
Yes, you were back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day. So so I was part of the marketing squad, and then different asks came in, and then I moved into the engineering part of it, and then I got into a BA role there, and then just like you, Kat, we had a sort of ask that actually came in where I was asked whether I could be the product owner, and needless to say, I was actually looking for a PO role, and I grabbed that role with both my hands. So, like you said, I was also it was a bit of a surprise. I didn't expect it. But yeah, so that was my sort of thrust into that role. So, what do you think, Kat? What were some of the things that I don't know, the sort of highlights that you think that you achieved this? That you're proud to say that I did it.
I mean, I don't know if this is one to say like, I did it, but I think it's a really, really rewarding role. I think a lot of people would agree, but I think the biggest highlight for me is being able to watch the team grow, because I had only been with the team for around just over a year. Yeah, just over a year when I was asked to step in. And our previous PO had been with Vodafone for quite a few years, so had a lot of knowledge and understanding of the business, the products, etc. And I felt like I was missing that. So there were a lot of occasions where like the squad would come to me for answers, and unfortunately I wasn't able to always provide them with the answer. I was only really there to guide, but that meant that they really had the opportunity to grow, and they grew their confidence. They became way more capable. They really believed in what they were doing. They came to me with the answers, and it was just more of like a double checking kind of thing. So I could really see that they had stepped up their game. And towards the end of the experience, I forgot to mention that I've only done this for 3 months. So towards the end of the 3 months, they were literally running the show. And it was just like incredible to see that they'd become confident, and, you know, you could tell they were pretty happy with what they were delivering and achieving as well. I think that was probably like the most rewarding thing. You don't really see that when you're sort of in it with them. Like when I was an e-commerce manager, I was sort of just like working alongside them and we were going through challenges together. But when you take a step back and you're helping them prioritize and guide, etc., you notice the change a lot more.
True.
So I think that was the biggest thing for me. Like they really, really stepped it up, and you know, they were a great squad anyway, and they've just, you know, become even better and better.
Yeah, I actually definitely agree with you on that point, because it's pretty similar to the sort of line of thought that I have as well. As in, so even when I came into the team, it was more of we are in this together. It's not that I sort of lead and you do as to what I tell you to do, but it was sort of we're all peers in this, and let's have a crack at this and let's see how it works out. So I always made sure that I was always sort of, if I can help hold them accountable to the work that they were doing, they definitely could they could actually hold me also accountable to the different asks that I was meant to provide them. So in that sort of a way, it gave them a sort of an entitlement or an ownership. And they actually, like you said, they actually stepped up into it. And so it was not, from that point on, it wasn't as in, what should I do or what needs to, tell me what I need to do. But it was more of, this is what we have to do. This is what we agreed, right? So this is the sort of step we need to take. Let's go there. Let's get this done. Was the mentality going forward. So yeah, I definitely agree with you on that point. Speaking of which, what do you think was your sort of learning curve? Was it very steep? Just that because you said that you were in only for 3 months.
Yeah, I think the first month I was definitely thrown into it, and I had to sort of, for me, it was like trying to keep my, you know, when you're like swimming. It's like keep your head above the water. But again, like, I mean, it's fair to say I had to do 2 jobs. So there was a lot going on, and we had a lot of projects to deliver. So I was pretty much thrown in. And I think like stuff like running ceremonies and, you know, learning how to prioritize the backlog, that didn't take me too long to pick up. But it was just sort of trying to understand, like, we handle different services, so upgrades for different services, and trying to learn the different products. But also we are a multidiscipline team, so we have like big data, we have campaign developments, digital analysts, normal analysts, and you know, I hadn't worked with all of them properly, even though I'm part of the squad. So it was trying to like understand their way of thinking, what tools they're using, etc. So it was more of like, because it was so broad, there was a lot for me to try and keep up with.
So safe to say you had a few sleepless nights, I would guess.
Yeah, what about you?
I mean, I was part of engineering before. It was, I mean, there were a few sleepless nights, but I had a sort of gist of what was happening. So there were a few days, that I had to actually spend a lot of time reading through stuff. But once you hit the ground, you start running, you just start running. I mean, it's what was the Newton's law? Exactly. You keep on start running. There's no other option but to keep on running. So speaking of so you were talking about ceremonies. Did you have any highlights from, I mean, I don't know, retros or the other things that you actually did that improved the team?
I think one of the important things for me when I first started was like, I didn't want to come and just run it the same way as our previous product owner. I think this sort of gave the squad and I a good opportunity for change. And also I needed to try and make it work for myself because I was trying to juggle so many things. So we had a retro and we did stop, start, continue, which is on our website, by the way, guys. If you want to go
check it out.
Really simple and effective. We just went through, you know, what processes or bits of work or whatever that, you know, we didn't really need to do as a squad anymore. It was like a nice to have, but it wasn't adding too much value. What the guys definitely wanted to continue, so certain meetings, you know, ways of working, etc. And then what we wanted to start doing, and a lot of things that they wanted to start doing was just, you know, be a lot more social together. So it was really, really productive retrospective, and we got some really good sort of valuable takeaways from that. Some of which enabled me to be a little bit more streamlined about running planning.
Yeah.
So that really helped me a lot, and it also meant that we were able to cut quite a lot of time off our usual way of doing planning, so it benefited the team as well. So I think that was a really, really good highlight. It's simple, effective, good takeaways that benefited all of us.
Yeah, and in the end, the team was happy, so that was all that matters, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was the same. So when I first came in, I remembered we were having, I think it was the first retro or the second one that we were having, and we had a really, I don't know what sort of word to say, but there was a character in the team. He was really outspoken, and I do appreciate people speaking their mind, but it was openly, he was asking about the ask for a retro, as in we keep airing the same thing every 2 weeks. So pretty much the sprint is, the duration is 14 days or 2 weeks, and he was saying we keep saying this every 2 weeks, what's going to change? So I took that as a point to make sure that at least I could address one of those points. So the next time we had a retro, at least one of those points was actually ticked off, and actually that brought about change in how the team actually sort of participated in the retro going forward. So they were more positive. They started seeing results from the retro. They started seeing the impact a retro was having. So that was actually, I felt really happy about it. So the team started getting a bit more open. They started laughing, and sometimes they used to pick on me during retros, which was fine as long as it made them laugh. But yeah,
it's really important to have that in the team.
Exactly.
Like, as much as it's, you know, you're there, you need to get your work done, you need to get your product delivered, like you have to have fun.
Exactly. Yeah.
Otherwise there really is no point.
I mean, in the end, we're all social beings, right? We're all working, so might as well make it fun while we do it.
Yeah, that was a good move, definitely.
Yeah, and there was just thinking about that. So there was so we being part of the engineering squad, there was and you definitely know about this, Kat. So business has deliverables that need to be delivered. The engineering team needs to deliver it. So there were timelines we had to meet, but we missed them. So there was a lot of so there was a time, and it was that time that actually picked up. So there was a time where there was a lot of tension between different teams. There were defects flying all around, people assigning defects to different teams, and teams coming back and saying that's not our problem, you have to deal with it, you have to give us a root cause analysis. So I think there was a time where people were just like getting crazy mad at each other. So I experienced it myself with so we follow something called microservice architecture, where you have a lot of services that broken up into different teams, and then there was a lot of sort of not bad blood in the actual essence of the word, but you know, there was a lot of tension. So the other thing was that I tried to at least bring in was some sort of a camaraderie between different teams, and that also worked out. So we were asking help, we were getting help, we were being proactive in helping out others. So they started repaying us in kind as well. So yeah, that was something that actually went really well. In the
That's
end,
really, really important, actually.
Yeah. So yeah, it's in the end, it's all the teams that actually, if the team likes how it works, then in the end, that's all that matters.
Yeah. No, I think that's important, like not just for the team, but also as like being a PO. Like for our squad, we're marketing, but we rely so heavily on the support from other teams outside not only our squad, but our tribe as well. So from different departments.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, your squads need to have that good relationship with one another, but more importantly, the POs really need to have, because you never know when, like, last minute you're going to need support from another PO, and he's going to determine,
exactly,
can my squad do it, when can we fit it in, etc. So yeah, like keeping those, you know, good relationships, keeping them lighthearted, but also, like, you know, being polite, etc. Like, is really, really important.
True words.
So let's move on. What were your lowlights?
Oh. Yeah, I mean, thinking about them in retrospective, it's okay to talk about them, but at that time it was like, oh my God, this is going to be, yeah, it was tough at that time. I mean, I would say, you know, whenever you're thrust into a new role or a new job, there's always a sort of burden and pressure that comes with it. So, like I said before, the business had timelines to me. We weren't there due to n number of reasons, factors. We couldn't actually reach up to those timelines. We couldn't meet those timelines, so there was a lot of pressure, and that, to be honest, was a bit overwhelming in the end. So that was something that I actually, yeah, that was a low light for me. What about you, Kat?
Overwhelming is a really, really good word, because that's exactly how I felt as well. But mine was more for the fact of, like, I was overwhelmed by the amount of contact that a PO gets from other people.
Yeah.
You know, I'm quite good with, you know, communication and being pretty social, etc. And, you know, my job as an e-commerce manager requires me to be in contact a lot with other external team members anyway. PO is a whole new level. Like, as soon as someone finds out, as soon as someone finds out you're a PO and they want something done, that's it. Like, they want to be your best friend. And it's not just like emails, it's like, if you're on Skype, that they find you on Skype, and like half the time I didn't know who these people were and I didn't know where they came from. But like calls, meetings, like I get it, you know, as a PO you are kind of like the gatekeeper of all the work that the teams deliver, and you help them prioritize. I get why it's needed, but I just didn't expect there to be so much contact. I think for me it was like I didn't have any sort of breathing space anymore.
So did you sign out of all communication channels? Were you just keeping yourself offline?
There were occasions, like if I was prepping for like refinement or planning, and what really, really worked for me is that I blocked out my calendar, and I didn't have my emails on, and I set myself to like do not disturb on Skype. Because like otherwise, you know, I would see things firing in, and I'd get quite distracted, or people would want answers from me straight away. And you know, running planning, running refinement for your team, so important that I just needed to be fully focused.
I mean, what you said there, Kat, it's actually a really valid point, because I mean, when you tend to, and I've faced it quite a few times, when you're taking the team through refinement, you're trying to explain something to them, and then you have this message that pops up, hiya, or hey, it's like, sorry guys, I completely lost focus. And then they also read the message, and then so it's absolutely true what you said. So you are spending time with your team that you absolutely focus all the time.
Exactly.
That task. That's a really good one. What were the other things that you found tough?
I think the only other thing was, I think, when you step into the role of a PO, and I don't know if you felt this, but you feel like you are responsible for like the overall well-being of your team. Like you end up caring so much more like about how they're doing, what they're feeling, what they're experiencing. And for me, you know, we had multiple projects going on at the same time. We're always a really, really busy team anyway. Like anything that happens within the business always touch upgrades, which always needs some sort of marketing comms or some analysis, or, you know, something needs fixing on the website. So we're always in demand anyway, but we had like 3 projects to launch simultaneously, and it was just, you know, stuff where you couldn't really say no. And it was really difficult watching the team like struggle. Like they were tired. I didn't want them to get burnt out, but they were probably close to being burnt out. And there wasn't really much that I could do aside from like little pieces of work, you know, we'll push them back. But everything was big, everything was time consuming. and I could just see them getting tired, and I just felt a bit helpless.
Okay.
And
Sorry, was this during when you just started off, or was it after you sort of got off
No,
stable?
it was literally as soon as, like,
Wow.
yeah, that's why I was saying, like, my first month was like, I just need to survive. But
This is baptism by fire, I would say.
yeah, but you just yeah, I mean, I was expecting it, but I wasn't expecting me to get so sort of like, I don't know what the word is, but you do take it a little bit personally.
Yeah, I get what you're trying to say, because so there are deadlines to meet. It has to be done. You tell the team to do it. There's no other way but to do it, and you find them that they're struggling with the workload, but there's no other option that you can think about. I get your point.
Yeah, and they kind of sort of like turn to you as like, you know, you're there to support, you're there to help them, you know, with the work, and they turn to you and you're just like,
awkward.
Yeah, so yeah, that was definitely.
Yeah, I mean, we have the same thing, and I think this is the third time that I'm repeating it, because we will be behind schedule. There was a hell lot of work to be done, and also one thing that I felt was, you know, when you read about the product owner decides what goes into the product and stuff, there was a particular time where we consistently keep missing deadlines. This has to go, and there's no. Don't talk about sort of, you know, decide what gets into the product, but this has to go. So it was like, okay, fine. There comes a time where you just have to say, all right. But yeah, I know it's not the best approach and the best sort of take on the issue. Guys, please don't murder me.
Yeah.
So,
do you have any more?
Yeah, I was just thinking. Since you and me, we both were thrust into this, into the PO role, and we knew the people who we were taking on from, did you have a fear of what the team sort of expected from you, or?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I had the same. So it was like, it was completely, so I came in, I say a few things, and then the team says, no, but we were supposed to do it this way. So I say, all right, no, let's try it this way. So there was a sort of, not going into too much detail, but there was a sort of religious process where everything that anyone works on had to go through the PO's approval. And for me, what I said was, I have faith and I trust you guys that whatever you do is done to the best of your abilities, and it meets the definition of ready, and it meets the acceptance criteria. So if you guys are happy with it, I'm happy. If you guys want me to review it, that's fine, but let's have it this way. And so there was a momentary pause in their faces, as in, what is this guy talking about? And I was like, is this right? Shit, what happens if something else goes wrong? So you sort of, you know, you have to sort of push yourself or give confidence to yourself. So that time it was a sort of, am I doing this right? You start doubting yourself, and you try to start thinking along the lines of, what would he or she do? Because you were trying to replace her, you were trying to fill in their shoes, right? So
no, I completely agree.
Yeah, go ahead, Kat. Sorry.
Oh, no, do you want to finish? I was just
no, go ahead. You were saying something.
No, yeah, so I was just saying, like, I completely agree. Like, I put a lot of pressure on myself, because especially because we were a pretty well established team, and we do Scrum really, really well. I think a lot of other teams look to us as, you know, the team for Scrum.
Yeah.
And, you know, and a big part of it was the way the old PO managed to implement the ways of working, and he got us to a really, really strong place. Yeah. And also, like, he just knew so much. So they're definitely really big shoes to fill. And I put a lot of pressure on myself. And also, especially, like, because I was within the team, I didn't want them to suddenly see me as someone who was just, like, trying to become their leader or their manager. Like, I was definitely not down for that. Like, that's not how I roll. I just wanted them to see me as, like, okay, you know, I'm still as much part of your squad. I'm just here. You need extra support, guidance, or you have any issues that you need someone to flag, I will be that person. I'll flag it, and I'll also help you guys run all the usual ceremonies and planning, etc. So I mean, yeah, there was a lot of I think I put a lot of pressure on myself. And I thought there'd be a lot of expectation because of a certain level the previous PO had set. But when I went into it, it wasn't like that. And I think, you know, if you are doing something like this, one of the things you need to do is try and make it work for yourself, which is why you do those retrospectives and you find out like what works well and what could potentially change. Because like no two people are the same. You're not going to run things the same
exactly.
way.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. You have to sometimes just trust yourself, just see what works for you in the first place, and then take learnings from that and move on. That's well said, Kat. So, all right. So, I think, winding this up, what do you think is the sort of learnings that you would give to someone who is actually, I mean, someone similar to ourselves, so just joining a new PO role, or is put into a PO role, or what are some of the learnings that you would give?
Firstly, always focus on looking at the value of something or a piece of work. Like, you are going to be bombarded with requests from various external teams, senior stakeholders. You know, they'll always want like a little bit of extra analysis on this, or like, you know, can we try another variation of this? And it's just like, you know, what things are actually going to drive the value that the squad needs to focus on. And there's always that sort of benefit versus effort, you know, 80-20 rule, whatever. Like, it's there for a reason. You're going to need to keep an eye on that, otherwise your team are going to be completely flat out. So always focus on what is driving the most value for your customer and to your product, definitely.
Right.
The second one follows along the lines of this, and it's okay to say no. It's okay to say no.
How many ever times to say that? Yeah, exactly.
It's okay to say no to external requests. You're always going to piss someone off, right? Whether it's external or your team. You'd rather piss someone external off rather than your team. You don't want your team to hit burnout, right? They're the ones having to support and deliver all these requests and, you know, improve the product. So you kind of need to protect them, and it's okay to say no. Obviously, you know, you've got to figure out the best way of saying no to your different stakeholders and reasons for it. You know, come with your data, you know, and then show them like how the team are performing and what their sprint velocity is, etc. But, you know, it is, if you've got reasonable data and you know, reasons to why saying no, you can say no.
It's called the art of being diplomatic.
Good way of saying it. My final one is just to remember to keep time for yourself. Like, you don't want it to consume your working life and also go into your sort of personal and after work life. That's what it was starting to do for me. And it just started to eat me up a little bit. I was becoming a little bit unhappy because there was just so much to do. And again, I do want to point out, I was in a different kind of circumstance. I was doing a PO and also my normal job at the same time. So that sort of exaggerates everything. But always try and keep time for yourself, like block out time in your calendar, take yourself offline from all the like communication channels, so that you can focus your efforts and your time on where you think it's best needed. And also, so you can try and just be able to switch off at the end of the day. Because it's really valuable, and you forget, like, you know, how worked up and stressed you can get if you let work consume you. And that's not healthy.
I mean, that's applicable for every person, isn't it? Having a healthy work-life balance. Definitely. And I think, when you become a product owner, you have to take up more responsibility. So, I definitely agree with you. I think for me, it was on the back of what I said before, was one of the lowlights that I said, filling in the shoes of the previous PO, and this was my first time doing it. You're going to find it tough and intimidating in the first place, and sometimes you just have to trust yourself, and like they say, fake it till you make it. So you should have a sort of self-confidence, and I would just like to say this, even though if it's going to be controversial, I don't mind, but you should have the sort of self-confidence that Donald Trump has right now. So, I'm a stable genius. You just have to trust yourself on that.
Drink detergent.
Yeah, the second thing was exactly related to what you said, Kat. You're going to piss off some people. You have to say no to others. You have to decide what's best for the team and move on. But then again, you just don't want to piss them off because in the end, they're all stakeholders. So you just have to back yourself up with numbers or logic as to why you can't do it. So that's where the art of diplomacy comes in. And that's not only with stakeholders, but with other teams as well. Wherever you have a sort of dependency or communication, because that was one of the places where I was able to, sort of resolve some of the tension that I talked about as one of my highlights. And then the third thing is also related to what you said, Kat, when you just want to make sure that the team doesn't burn out. So I tend to read people. I'm not that good at it, but what I did try to see is I tried to judge the team's emotion. So be it work related or if they were too much time on a meeting, just to make sure that they don't just burn out, sort of tire out. So I was always conscious of trying to always make sure that if you are being the PO or leader of a new team, just make sure that they are your team. You work together. So just make sure that you take care of your team as well. So
no, that's incredibly important.
Yeah.
Like your team are everything basically. If you don't have a team product, so you do need to protect them as much as possible. And I think just following on from your emotion one, just one last point. I think also don't let your emotion be put onto the team as well. So like, I find it quite difficult to hide my emotions, and it's something that I need to work on. But if I was having a shit day, sometimes I didn't hide it very well, not gonna lie.
Ooh.
And you don't want to end up like your team seeing that you're having a shit day, so they start feeling a little bit crappy. Or like you say a lot of negative things, and it puts them in a negative mindset. So that's leading on from emotion. I think that's one thing to sort of like try and
absorb it.
Like hold it in a little bit. Not always, but when you can, kind of thing. So last question before you wrap up, because we've only got a few minutes. Would you want to do this permanently?
Absolutely. No doubt about it. I absolutely want to do it. What about you?
I would. I mean, there are so many highlights that we just didn't manage to get into, but I think the most important thing is it's such a rewarding role.
It is.
I was just not ready for it. I'd only been at Vodafone for just a year and a half, and I love my role in e-commerce and the digital world. So I'm not ready for it yet in terms of my career, but future on, I think it'd be great. Definitely.
Nice one. I mean, it is good to since you've already got experience on it, it's going to put you in a good state the next time the role comes along. So you're all good.
But I think one thing to call out for those who are like watching, listening, etc., like Danis and I are talking about our experiences, and it's based on a very short period of time. For me, it was 3 months. Danis, how long?
I think it was close to 5 months, I guess.
Yeah, and both of us had never been POs before, so this is just based on our experiences, and not everything we say is going to be the same for you, or we're not saying stuff that should be taken as gospel, etc. So I mean, it was just for us to get together, catch up on how we've experienced the roles. It's been a learning curve for both of us. For any new POs, experienced POs, you're moving to be a PO of a different squad, and you know who the old PO was, like whatever. We'd love to hear your experiences too, your thoughts, your highlights, your lowlights, and any bits of advice that you'd like to share with the rest of the Agile Avengers community. Please get in contact with us. You can find us at agileavengershub.com. And then we have a contact us form on there, and then our social channels are coming up somewhere. at the end
screen.
of the video on the screen.
Left, right, the top.
Or, yeah, subscribe and like and do all the usual jazz that people ask you to do. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you. So
yeah, guys. Yeah, so yeah, please feel free to reach out to us. We're looking for feedback. I mean, like Agile says, we're always trying to improve ourselves and also help others improve. So yeah, do reach out to us. We're always available to have a talk. It was really nice talking to you, Kat.
Good talking to you too.
Yeah, this was a really good talk on a Sunday evening.
Yeah.
All right,
Definitely.
take care, Kat.
Thanks, guys.
All right, cheers, guys. Bye. Take care.
Bye. I nearly forgot our website. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
I was like, don't is it Agile Adventures hub.com? Is it just Agile Adventures?
Did you say hub.com or?
Yeah, I did. Is that not right? Oh yeah, it is a hub.com. My God, how bad am I? There was one point where you were saying something I really wanted to be like, what? But I thought, no, not appropriate. I'm really handsy. It's really bad.
That's actually good, you know. I started recording.
It's all right. Adina can cut this out.